This is a true story from the Polish Navy during World War II, featuring a legendary Polish submarine. In 1940, this submarine, named ORP Orzeł, overcame numerous obstacles and finally escaped German control, subsequently joining the Allied forces. However, during a patrol in the North Sea, the captain suddenly received orders from his superiors to attack the German fleet departing from G2 port. At that moment, the fate of this submarine changed completely, as they had already received the news. German military forces had effectively blocked the northern retreat path of the Anglo-French Allied forces. If they managed to reach the English Channel, the strategic plan for evacuating more than 300,000 troops from Dunkirk would inevitably fail. Therefore, the captain decided to take a shortcut to the Skagerrak Strait to ambush the German naval fleet. However, entering was not easy. The sea's weather conditions were extremely harsh, with waves reaching several meters in height. Nevertheless, they surfaced the submarine to travel because the ORP Orzeł's surface speed was twice its underwater speed. To save time, they had no choice but to navigate through the massive waves. After about 20 hours of turbulence, they finally arrived near the Skagerrak Strait. However, upon arrival, the captain spotted numerous survivors on the sea surface through the periscope, indicating that the German forces had attacked the Allied transport ships. The captain suspected that the Germans might still be nearby. Indeed, the sonar quickly detected a patrol boat approaching from about 1,000 meters to the northwest. Faced with the survivors so close by, the captain felt helpless but ultimately ordered the periscope to be retracted and began an emergency dive. The submarine rapidly descended to the predetermined depth. However, the enemy patrol vessel was already positioned overhead and released several depth charges. But this bombardment didn't last long. According to the sonar report, the enemy is still scanning, probably because they haven't detected their exact position. Even so, they can't take any action now and can only keep the submarine in silent mode. Unexpectedly, this waiting lasted for several hours, and the oxygen inside the submarine gradually depleted. If this continues, they might not need the enemy to make a move. They could end up perishing due to lack of oxygen. The crew members could not accept such a death under any circumstances. Even if it means dying, they are determined to fight the enemy to the end. After a discussion, they decided to quietly surface the submarine to replenish air and have a few skilled marksmen quickly take out the enemy's searchlights, giving them a chance to escape. However, to their surprise, shortly after surfacing, the captain discovered that in addition to a patrol boat, the enemy also had a torpedo boat, and they had already been detected. In this critical moment, the captain immediately ordered his crew to release smoke bombs. But now the smoke isn't having much effect, and under the opponent's powerful firepower, they have no chance to fight back and couldn't take out the enemy searchlight. The only option was to order the submarine to dive urgently. As the submarine was diving, the Germans quickly positioned themselves above and dropped several more depth charges. The submarine was instantly shaken, causing leaks in several places, and the crew was left in a panic. The leakage issue wasn't addressed in time, leading to the submarine descending too quickly and eventually settling on the seabed. Even then, the German depth charges continued unabated. To make matters worse, a crew member accidentally opened the fuel line valve while repairing the engine, which immediately caused a fire. Fortunately, another crew member noticed in time and quickly closed the oil pipeline valve, risking burns. Although the fire was quickly extinguished, it burned the oxygen inside the submarine down to only 1.8%. Seeing that the oxygen was about to run out, the captain could only let the vice captain try their usual method to deceive the Germans above. Then he had the crew pull out the torpedoes from the torpedo tubes and brought in some wooden planks and a pile of clothes along with an oil barrel and placed them into the torpedo tubes. Then the captain took the lead in making noise, instructing the crew to shout loudly inside the submarine. The purpose of this was to deliberately expose their position to the enemy. Once the enemy approached and dropped depth charges, they immediately launched the items inside the torpedo tube. However, they didn't leave right away. Instead, they waited for the depth charges to explode. Only then did the captain order the engines to be started quickly, using full power to propel the submarine out of the danger zone. After the submarine sped out, the captain quickly told them to shut down the engine, remain silent, and see if the Germans fall for it. After waiting for several minutes, it soon became quiet outside. The captain concluded that the Germans had likely been deceived. However, to ensure absolute safety, they continued to wait underwater for a while longer, until the oxygen inside the submarine was nearly depleted, before surfacing. At that moment, the crew could finally relax and take deep breaths of fresh air, though they never expected what happened next. In the upcoming mission, they would never be able to replicate this feeling again. Soon, the captain received another task from headquarters, instructing them to immediately proceed to another location to intercept another German fleet. However, their submarine had previously been bombarded by depth charges, and some facilities had been damaged. If they were to take the conventional route to the new location, it would be nearly impossible to complete. Reluctantly, the captain had to choose to take a shortcut again. However, this time the journey was extremely perilous, as they had to pass through an area filled with mines. This was practically a death wish. Yet, even so, they had to press on because it was crucial for the evacuation plan of 300,000 people. The moment the submarine entered the minefield, the friction between the submarine and the mine chains scared the crew so much that they didn't dare to breathe. Everyone was tense, fearing that the next second could be their last. Fortunately, the captain relied on the information relayed by the sonar, guiding the pilot through each imprecise maneuver, and eventually, the submarine made it through the minefield. Unexpectedly, as they raised the periscope to assess the situation, they discovered a plane heading towards them. After the crew confirmed it was an Allied plane, the captain ordered them to dive urgently. Unexpectedly, the next second, the plane dropped several depth charges on them. The submarine was directly struck, and an immense quantity of seawater swiftly entered, resulting in a catastrophic explosion within the engine room. Observing this dire situation, the crew realized there was no hope, and water rapidly inundated all compartments. The submarine soon descended to the ocean floor, and the majority of the crew perished shortly after it impacted the seabed. The captain likely never anticipated being sunk by an Allied aircraft, or perhaps the Allied plane mistakenly identified them as a German submarine. Since they didn't inform their superiors about their plan to cross the minefield, what was the final reason? To this day, the Polish Navy hasn't figured it out. In 2008, during a joint salvage operation in the Baltic Sea with Sweden, the attempt to recover the submarine ended in failure.